Hey everyone, I hope you're having a good start to the week. I just wanted to make this quick video just to kind of put into context what I'm trying to do by building this portfolio out. So the whole premise of this is to, everyone kind of treats the S&P 500 as just one number, but obviously it's there's 500 components that go into calculating that number. Yes, the derivatives and everything that are used on the S&P kind of drive large parts of the price action, but we can't dismiss all of the underlying components that go into it. And the whole point of what I'm trying to do is use something to simplify it, track all 500 of them, and then instead of just having one price, like currently this week, well, as we're coming into this week, the S&P 500 hasn't really moved. If you just look at the SPY or the SPX, whatever you want to use, or it's just been in this sideways motion, but there's lots of stuff going on underneath, underneath the surface of that, and that's what I'm trying to pick out here is using the components to constantly be shifting and constantly be rotating into strength. So this is one of the charts I share each week in the Substack. It's a bit of a mess, but once you get used to it, it's it's not that complex really. Up here we just have kind of the overall things like the median signal strength. So the top lines on all of these, so is calculation, so the actual number, what the signal strength is. Then we have weekly performance, that's just nominal performance. This line here tells you whether it's a long, which in my how I use that, a long would be if it's in the portfolio. A long would be a full size position. A neutral, which would mean if it's in the portfolio, it would be at half size. It's starting to tell you something. It's saying, hang on a minute, we're more than likely it's going to be right. We've just dropped below momentum. As with anything, a drop below momentum could very well lead to a drop below trend, and that would come out. And that would be a blank or an out, a no position. Then this line here just denotes whether the signal strength is in an uptrend or not. So 1 in green means yes, it's in an uptrend. And then these numbers are 1 week, 1 month, and 3 month, the calculations that go into calculating this number. Okay, at any given time, then they're not necessarily an indicator of moving forward, but it can be something that you can look at and say, a good example recently has been, if we just scroll down a bit, into real estate. So there were a few picks in here that we do hold in the portfolio. DLR is one, Well is one. They've been in here. Well's been in for probably 5 or 6 weeks now. DLR a little bit less than that, but there are a couple of other names starting to come up, and the system doesn't look at this number as a way to pick one over the other, but what you can see, all these negative numbers which are labeled in green, kind of highlights that potentially moving forward there's a bit of a tailwind for real estate, because basically what this negative number means is that the numbers that go in to calculate this are all bad. So as we move forward in time, you're slowly losing bad data, bad numbers. So that's going to naturally force this number to go higher. It doesn't necessarily mean that will make the price go higher, or the price might not go higher until it gets to a certain threshold, but it just means that overall there's on some names at least, this is the maximum for the 3 month is 63 days. So this has almost, The maximum for 1 week is 5, the maximum for 1 month is 21, and the maximum for 3 months is 63. So this almost has, you know, the maximum, whatever UDR is, has close to the maximum of bad data that can potentially fall out, which will go to calculate this number. Now, if it can do that while at the same time going up in price, meaning that every day moving forward is going to be replaced by a good number, then that's going to have twice the impact, because a bad number will fall out at the end and a good number goes in at the beginning, and that's going to have double the impact. Okay, so that's just something. So yeah, up here, this is just a general for the sector as a whole. So we have everything. So this is all 500 tickers in the S&P 500. So going down, materials, comms, energy, financials, they're all in there, and you can see, oh, there we go. You can find them all in there. The most important thing is the portfolio, really, but that's the whole point, is to try and cut down on the amount of time, the amount of not necessarily work, but the amount of time that people have to put in to tracking everything. That's all done for you. But down here, if you want to look at a specific sector, or if there's a name that comes up in conversation and you want to check it, then you can do that here at least, and you'll be able to see at least how it's scored by how I do the scoring of the signal strength. So he has them all there. The other one that comes up in the deck is this, which is a bit of a messy chart, but again, all the split by sectors down here. And what this basically says is, so across the horizontal is its distance from trend, and here it's its distance from momentum. So everything that's up in the top right is above trend, above momentum, and that's good. So that's where we want to be picking from. Now, how long it's been up here will go into calculating part of the signal strength score. Okay, so just because it's up here doesn't mean it's going to be definitely along in the book, along in the portfolio. But visualizing it by this, now obviously some of the sectors like tech and healthcare have a lot more, so it's kind of a bit of a messy chart, but kind of the big takeaway, like you can see energy after you know, going through June, July and August, September, it was way up here and to the right, and now a lot of names are down here, so they've started to fall off. Financials are up and to the right, which is interesting. But yeah, it's all in the chart deck, so you can have a closer look, and I'll put a link to that in the notes below the video. So this is one of the sections that goes into calculating it, and this is what it looks like, and it all looks very messy, but it's a visualization to show you what's doing what, like anything. So this is just the sectors, and these scores, so this median score here, which is the black dotted line, which is all 500, that's the median score of all 500 tickers in the S&P 500. Okay, and as you can see, as we came into Halloween and the start of November, almost everything except for energy, which was on its way down, was at a really depressed level. So it's in here. If you remember, everyone was talking about IWM and how everything like breadth was really bad, how all of the small caps, etc., were underperforming. Well, that's kind of highlighted here, but as we look across all of the different sectors, you'll see it coincided with almost everything was kind of at a low. You know, there were sectors, and we had them in the book, like comms here, so that would have been Google and Meta in here somewhere. Energy was pretty weak. Tech was weak apart from a few names. One of the hardware names, I'm trying to think off the top of my head which one it was. Industrials were all weak, they'd rolled over. Financials, so there was lots of insurance that were in here. So we had things like I'm trying to think, like AIZ and different insurance brokers, and property and reinsurance are up in here. Staples were all really depressed. Real estate, which is having a bounce now, in the same. Utilities, so these two were renewable, that would be CEG, which we were along for a really long time. Producer, that would be NRG, I guess. So even within a sector, although the sector itself, by the dotted line, was showing weakness, there were components inside it that they were anything but weak. Okay, and that's what I'm trying to do. Is healthcare again. This will be healthcare plans off the top of my head, like VTRS, I believe, is one of them. You know, lots of different names, but that's the point. Is you try and buy. It's probably best. Was it this one? Yeah, I used this to make a tweet about it to kind of reference it. So this was the median, just like on the other chart, of the median score of the 500 tickers that go into the S&P 500. Then this horrible chart is the some of the subsectors that we've held in the portfolio over the last 3 months. Okay, but then on any given time, there's, you know, something that's gone from down here and then gone all the way up. We wouldn't have held it here, and what we want to try and do is make sure that we have it in the book as it's transitioning to go up into this top half of the chart. And then what we can do from that is we then construct the portfolio out of all of the things that are showing strength. Okay, so the one thing to highlight, like here, is although this looks like a pretty flat chart, that doesn't mean that's what the price did. It's just showing you that we're trying to constantly be holding the strength within the portfolio. The strength of these 500, we want to have the best of it all the way through. A good example, and it might be cherry picking because it's been our best performer, was CEG, so that's Constellation Energy. You know, as we moved into July, its strength was high, but basically went sideways. Now, if memory serves, I think the price went up another 20% from where this signal strength scores went sideways. So it's not representative of what the price did. That's just what the signal strength score did. And basically what this means is all the way here, kind of what I described earlier, is all these bad numbers are being replaced by good numbers as the strength is going up. And for it to maintain this, what it meant is that the price had to keep going up, because instead of up here where it was comping against something easy, well, here it had to constantly be pushing up and up and up and up to maintain a high score, because it had to replace a good number here. So tomorrow's score is good. It was also replacing a good number over here, right? So the price had to be going up to maintain this strength, and then obviously it failed as we came into the start of December. And that's the point. We want to buy it as, we're not going to buy it here. The system's not going to pick it up there. We want to be picking it up here and riding it for as long as possible until this starts tailing off. And then, you know, then we cut it, we hopefully, which was in this case, we capture the gains. You know, it might well, if for some reason over the next couple of weeks this starts to pick up again, we add it back in, because it will still have a high score. But what we've done is we've ridden it, we've captured gains, we've captured those gains, they belong to us now, and then we move on to the next thing. Yeah, and then that's what highlights probably the last couple of weeks, is this, which is the same, but we use a much shorter term score. Now these charts look horrible, but as you can see, like almost everything was really, really weak. It basically got to a point where for many things, you know, that were, well, the perfect point was kind of small caps, which we're not capturing here in the S&P 500, but just using that as a broad term. The cyclical things, industrials, etc., they'd basically got to a point where they couldn't get any worse. That was the honest answer. It wasn't that things, it wasn't necessarily that things got better, it's that they couldn't really get any worse, which meant any slight positivity at this front end was going to push the signal strength higher. Going back to, you know, what was explained in there earlier, that any marginal positive number at the front of the look back window was going to be replacing really bad numbers up here somewhere. Okay, so any time that we're adding a positive number at the front and it's replacing a bad number at the back, just mechanically the math is going to make this number go up. And that's obviously what was being picked up. Now there's all kinds of, it's options positioning this and Fed blah blah and people front running. Yeah, but it could be all of those things, could be none of those things. But the honest answer is that, at least by how I measure it, everything was at a point where it just couldn't get any worse, you know, a good 2 to 3 weeks prior to Halloween. So any slight movement, any positive movement was naturally going to start forcing things higher. So yeah, these charts are all in the Substack. You can have a look. It's, you know, like I said, you can go through any sector you want. You know, comment below, comment in the Substack itself if you want, you know, any sector specifics. I'll try and do what I can. If anyone wants one that I do want to build out is perhaps gold, because there's only one gold name, which is Newmont, that's held in the S&P 500. So that's one I may do. But yeah, I hope you found it interesting. Again, it's not necessary to follow through with the portfolio to have an understanding of what all these crazy charts and numbers mean, but I just thought I'd share it just to kind of give an overview of what it is that I'm trying to do and how we're trying to construct or find the names to construct a portfolio to constantly be cycling through strength within the S&P 500 and not have to own something as it's going down. We constantly want to be having things when they're up here, and we're not scared either. If there's nothing to buy, we put lots of things in cash, just because it has a high score. But you know, using these, if it has a high score but it's below momentum and trend, then we're out, and whatever would have been allocated to that position would just be held in cash. And if it goes back above momentum and trend and continues in to have positive signal strength, then you know, then we carry on from there. But we don't just ride things down because we don't just hold the positions because they have some kind of meaning or some kind of portfolio construction meaning. You know, oh, we think it's going to be weakness ahead, so we need to hold more utilities. That's not the way I really think about it. I just want to be constantly picking from strength and holding those in the portfolio. Okay guys, hope that's helpful. Cheers, bye.